So good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. We're a cozy bunch here. I encourage you to move up front if you'd like. My name is Christina Holtz, if you don't know me, and I'm a member of the steering committee of the League of Women Voters of Hamilton Wenham. And this is our third presentation in our speaker series on sustainability, empowering change, everyday actions for a sustainable future. So, welcome. This is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters of Hamilton Wenham. You can see from our mission statement that we've been around for some time, since 1959, and we specialize in promoting voter education on local, state, and national issues. We're a nonpartisan group, and our membership is open to all. We are very involved in our local community, and we run multiple big events every year, including our Civics Bee and our Candidates Night. We also had a very successful we also had a very successful first-time volunteer fair earlier this year, and we hope to have that again in fall of 2024. But we also have smaller events. We have seasonal walk and talks, including one coming up on December 3rd at Bradley Palmer State Park, and we've run book clubs and film nights. So we have 3 more speaker series presentations planned for 2024, including presentations on affordable housing, media literacy, and water resources and conservation. You can go to our website to view the earlier presentations that we've done this fall on civic engagement and local journalism. So we're an active group. We have a monthly newsletter with our events, and I encourage you to sign up at our table in the back of the room. And before turning things over to Susan, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Hamilton Wenham Cultural Council, as well as the library, for hosting us tonight. And I'd like to thank my fellow League member Susan Shelby, my partner in organizing this event, as well as the entire steering committee for their help. So tonight we have 3 panelists to talk with us about sustainability, and I'm going to turn things over to Susan, who will introduce them and act as our moderator.
So I'm Susan Shelby. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Hamilton Wenham. I've been a resident of Hamilton for 25 years. Thank you all, as Christina said, for coming out tonight. I'm going to introduce our speakers, but I also want to mention before we start that we are hoping this will be a very interactive session. So please raise your hand. As you know, we have a wireless mic, and we'd like you to use that if you ask a question, because then it comes through on the recording. If you just speak from the audience, sometimes it's not going to get picked up. And we do have a lot of people, if they can't attend, who do go up on YouTube and watch the Hamilton Wenham Cable News to see what happened at our events. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Greg Horner. He is with the Hamilton Wenham Climate Action Team. They have a table in the back if you'd like more information. And Greg is going to discuss steps that we can take in our town and also what other towns are doing to combat climate change. He's going to share some simple steps about things individuals can do to make a difference. Greg is a resident of Hamilton for the past 18 years, and he's worked in the environmental nonprofit sector for 25 years. He is currently working as a consultant to foundations, nonprofits, and individual donors, and he was a co-founder of the Hamilton Wenham Climate Action Team. Sharon Byrne-Kashida is with the Massachusetts Product Stewardship Council, and she's going to speak about product stewardship legislation for mattresses and paint and extended producer responsibility legislation for packaging. She's going to talk about a bill, S471, that is currently before the Mass State Legislature and which the League of Women Voters has endorsed. She recently retired from Mass DEP, where she served 23 years as the Regional Waste Recycling Coordinator for the Northeast District 3, which is comprised of 39 cities and towns north of Boston. And last but not least, we have Neil Shea. He is a field supervisor with Clear Result Mass Save. He's going to provide an overview of the Mass Save program, including what to expect at a home energy assessment. He's a field supervisor at Clear Result, which is the lead vendor for the Mass Save program, one of the leading energy efficiency programs in the country. Their complete bios can be found on the Hamilton Wenham website. So I'm going to turn it over to our speakers. Again, please interrupt if you have any questions, and we've also left some time at the end for Q&A.
Thank you. All right. All right. Oh, I can't move this. I'll stay here. This is fine. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. I really wanted to start off by talking about pumpkins and how pumpkins are something we can compost, and how that's climate action, because it is. Composting is great, and I will talk about that more later on, but I decided I can't lead off with that this topic is too serious and too important for me to start off all lighthearted with these great, easy, simple things we can all do, these 3 quick things to do, and that'll be enough. So I want to start by speaking truth about a couple hard facts. First off, climate change is here now. It's not something that's years away. We're seeing the impact already in storms, and floods, wildfires. We had an abnormally hot summer in September, as you know. Globally, this summer, we saw the hottest days recorded on Earth in 125,000 years. And the 10 hottest years on record have all been since 2010. My other hard fact, I'll say, is that the climate crisis is mostly caused by burning fossil fuels. So that's the oil for heating your house, it's gas for your car, it's natural gas for your stove or your furnace. There's also a lot of our electricity locally is produced with natural gas. It's also jet fuel for planes. And in other regions, coal. And around the world, coal is still a big contributor to climate change. So quickly moving away from fossil fuels is what is needed to reduce the carbon in the atmosphere and address climate change and try to avert the worst of climate change. It's too late to stop it. That train has left the station. Now we just have to slow it down and work to reduce how bad it is. In the 1990s, the Sierra Club had a campaign that was either loved or mocked, depending on who you talk to. They didn't want any of their staff to use the term global warming or climate change. They wanted them to talk about the carbon blanket or the CO2 blanket in order to get across the concept, which is a good concept, of as we burn fossil fuels, we get a layer of heat-trapping gases in the atmosphere that's like a blanket that you'd want to throw off in the middle of the night when you overheat, but we're stuck with it. So the scientists are telling us, actually, before I say that, scientists are telling us that we have very little time to make a huge change to limit the impacts of climate change. Every 1/10 of a degree of avoided warming matters. It may not feel like it on a winter day, but it's important to remember that extreme heat kills people. Hurricanes and tropical storms kill people. Wildfires and floods kill people. We have to be thinking about the global community as well as local. And climate change is making all those things worse. It's the warmer waters, for example, in the Gulf of Mexico are driving stronger and more dangerous hurricanes. We're having more flooding, more fires, droughts, more insect-borne diseases than ever before. And the people who will suffer the most around the world are the ones who have done the least to contribute to the problem. So you could call it an environmental justice issue as well as a health issue. Climate change has arguably already led to crop failures, civil unrest, waves of refugees, and destabilized governments. And we're just getting started. So we don't have to convince people to save the birds or the whales. We can do this out of pure self-interest. The cost alone of responding to natural disasters continues to rise. Last year in the US, it was $178 billion. So thinking about our pure self-interest, think about what you might love about living in New England. Perhaps the climate. We're going to end up more like South Carolina in 50 years is the projections. What else might you love? The coast, the beaches, the fall colors, apple trees, local farms, maple syrup, snow days, skiing. All these things are at risk from climate change. I hate to be the messenger here. So turning to more positive things, what can we all do? What's the action part of the Hamilton Wenham Climate Action Team, right? So my action steps. I'm going to read you the headers, and then I'll go back and touch on each one in more depth. So composting, plastic, using less plastic, getting an energy audit, buying clean energy, electrify everything is a catchphrase with a bunch of subheaders we'll talk about. Flying less, changing your diet, moving your money, and living like Europeans. That'll be the fun one we'll close with. So composting, how many of you had a pumpkin at Halloween? There we go. There we go. All right. And how many of you put that pumpkin in a compost bin? All right, not yet. Fair enough. We haven't either. If you don't put pumpkins in the compost bin, does anyone know where they end up? Close. They go in our trash, and where does our trash go? Does anyone know?
On the train to Ohio?
It goes to an incinerator in Saugus. And if you take the commuter rail down, you see it off to you, as you're heading into Boston, you see it off to your right. There's all these trucks coming and going, and the big incinerator out in the middle of a beautiful salt marsh. And I want you to just imagine how much fuel is involved in burning thousands and thousands of wet, soggy, rotting pumpkins. What a waste of energy, just dumping natural gas to try to dry out all that moisture and burn it and get rid of it. But that's what happens. That's what happens to a lot of pumpkins in Massachusetts and elsewhere. And it's only one holiday, but the same is true all year round. Composting is a great environmental win for the energy use that's avoided and also for the valuable amendment that it creates for all the gardeners and others. So yes, compost as much as you can after you take steps to decrease your food waste. And I know I'm on a roll here, but feel free to raise your hand, jump in with a question. I suspect that composting has a bigger impact than recycling plastic because not much plastic actually gets recycled. Sharon will maybe talk about that. All right, so stay tuned. Plastic is made from oil and gas, so using less plastic is absolutely climate action. Another thing that will be talked about later is getting an energy audit. I won't dwell on that because Neil's going to cover it, but I want you just to remember it's not just free. You've already paid for it. So get your energy audit. Buying clean energy. This one's a little bit more complicated, but in general, you have two main options. Two simple options, I'll say. You can join a community solar program, or you can do rooftop solar. Who in the room has heard of community solar before? All right, so maybe half. This is when a private company installs a bunch of solar panels, does a big project, does like a utility scale, not like rooftop scale, bigger than that. And they sell shares to individuals like myself. It's like subscribing to a magazine. Lots of people pay a little bit to make it all work. So you agree to pay them a set amount every month, and in return, you get a credit on your energy bill, your National Grid, your regular National Grid utility bill. I might pay the solar company $100 a month, and on my bill, I get a credit for 106, 107. It's not a lot of money, but notice it's not more. I'm paying less, or even call it roughly the same, and I'm getting 100% clean energy. So I'm heating my house with 100% solar energy, and it's not on my roof. It's somewhere else. So I don't have the commitment, I don't have the rooftop panels. I'm off track. So if you're into that, if you want to find out more, look up Solar Gardens for more information. We have this flyer in the back, and there's no long-term commitment. There's over 100 community solar installations in Massachusetts alone. Actually, I think the number might be closer to 200. Bob here is with, raise your hand, Bob is with the Climate Action Team, and he's actually done some of these community solar installations. So if you think it sounds a little weird, ask him. He'll vouch for legitimacy. And I'm a customer, happy to talk to you about it. So rooftop solar is also great if your roof is less than about 10 years old. Heather in the back is also with the Climate Action Team. She's been leasing solar panels for years and pays less money every month than she would otherwise pay to National Grid. So you don't have to front the money. You can also do a lease program. There's more information about that on our website, and you can talk to her at the end. We also have, the Climate Action Team has a partnership with Kazalt Solar. There's a flyer back there for them also. So if you just meet with them to talk about solar, they donate $100 to the Climate Action Team. So we're in favor. Meet with Kazalt Solar. And Hamilton residents also have the option to purchase 100% clean energy through our Community Choice Aggregation Program. That's through the town, through National Grid. There's more information on the website, town website about that, or reach out to us. So other things, electrify everything. That's the catchphrase for moving away from decarbonization, moving away from fossil fuels. We can create clean electricity, but we can't create clean oil or clean natural gas. So the idea is to move all these things like electric vehicles away from gas over to battery and electric. So start with your lawnmower and a leaf blower if you use one. You're all welcome to come test drive my electric lawnmower. They're quieter, cleaner, lighter, no maintenance. It always starts. Electric vehicles are quickly taking over the market. There's going to be tons of charging stations popping up. Shell says they're going to build 200,000 charging stations in the next 6 years. Heat pumps are also known as mini splits. These provide heat and air conditioning year-round, even on the coldest days. And each of you already has this technology in your house. Does anyone know what appliance you have that involves a heat pump? All right, Neil. Neil with the refrigerator, yes. You already have this dependable technology in your house. The refrigerator is a heat pump. And I won't get into the physics of how it works, but the same idea, the same concepts work for heating and cooling your space and can be used as a hybrid system with your existing furnace. So there's also stovetops, a new generation of electric cooktops that use magnetic induction. We switched away from natural gas to magnetic and have never looked back. It's great, better for your indoor air quality. You can also do a heat pump water heater. With that, you probably want to, don't wait for it to fail. If you wait for your water heater to fail, you're not going to have the time to do something that's different than the conventional mainstream approach. So you want to try to get ahead of it. And all these things I mentioned get rebates, most of them through the Mass Save program. A few more quick things you can do. Flying less. Flying has a huge impact on your annual carbon footprint. The phrase I like with diet is less meat, better meat. I suggest buying grass-fed beef from animals raised in the US. The labeling is a little complicated, so look for like an American Grass-Fed Association sticker or something like that. There's also a great company called Walden Local Meat that delivers to this area that I recommend. Move your money. There's one you may not have thought I was going to talk about tonight. Ask Google if your bank supports the expansion of the fossil fuel industry, and you probably won't like what you hear. So an easy way to help the movement is to change your bank and your credit card, and you can learn more about this online. And live like Europeans. Europeans live a good life. They have much lower carbon footprint than Americans, and mostly because they walk and they bike and they use public transit. So what can we do as a town collectively? We can put solar everywhere we can, roofs and parking lots. We can convert the town vehicles and lawn equipment to electric. We can go to electric school buses and cut out the dirty diesel buses. We can add climate change to our school curriculum. We could follow the example of Swampscott and ban the use of gas leaf blowers. So the Climate Action Team's working on a bunch of these things. You can join our mailing list, follow us on social media to learn more and get involved. We need more people actively involved to help us in a variety of roles. In closing, to avert the worst of the climate crisis, we need to stop using fossil fuels and transition to clean energy. The good news is that that transition is already well underway, and we have the technology we need. We don't need to wait. It's a race against time. We need to take action now for ourselves and for future generations who will ask what action we took and why we waited so long to do it. My last thought is that it can be hard as individuals to think, oh, well, whatever I do is not going to make an impact. Whatever we do as one small town is not going to make an impact. But we're not alone. We're part of each of us is part of a community, is part of a region, is part of a state and a country, and lots of people are working on this. This is a collective effort, and it's individual, it's the sum effort, it's a sum of all our collective, I said this better in my notes. Our collective impacts are what caused the problem, and they can also solve the problem. We're not acting alone. Even around us, we have Beverly, Gloucester, Salem, Ipswich, Rockport, Newburyport, lots of others who are taking action as part of a global community and global movement. So I ask you each to do what you can to help us move faster with climate action, and we would love to help you. So please reach out and tune in to the Climate Action Team. That is all. You gonna stand? You gonna stand?
Greg, I have one quick question. A lot of Hamilton residents recently received in the mail the enrollment of our electrical supplier. Oh, sorry. A lot of Hamilton residents recently received, or in October, they received a notification in the mail that Hamilton had selected a clean energy source out of, actually it's called Dynegy, and it's out of Texas. I'm not sure if, I think it's a wind farm, but either way, and you're automatically enrolled in a standard rate unless you opt out. However, I'm going to ask Greg if he could talk a little bit more about can you do more than just the standard rate?
Yeah, let me just use this mic here. Is this one on? Are we good? Yeah, so I mentioned briefly when I was talking about buying clean energy that that Hamilton residents have the option of changing their allocation through the Community Choice Aggregation Program. It sounds complicated. Really, this is a program that has saved us in Hamilton a lot of money, especially last year when Wenham and other towns saw big increases. It means that our town and our energy manager has taken a proactive step of helping us buy energy collectively, like collective bargaining. We get a better rate because we're buying in bulk, like going to Costco for your electrons. So we have a contract, and that means the price didn't go up last year when National Grid rates went up. But those contracts run out, and so every 3 years, I think it is, that contract gets redone. And so that's what happened recently. The contract got redone, put out to bid, a new supplier was contracted, I guess, and it's this place in Texas, which is weird that we get our energy from Texas. But it's kind of like the bank. It's not your $100. You put $100 in your savings account, you don't get the same $100 out of the ATM, and it doesn't matter. It's all electrons, it's all in this big system, right? So yes, you're not getting the actual electrons from Texas, but it doesn't matter because it's all a commingled system. That's all, preamble to your question, which is, yes, you can opt to go into your National Grid account, and because of this, what's called this Community Choice Aggregation Program, everyone is defaulted at a 5% clean energy. level. And that's the baseline. You can go in and lower it to zero clean energy. If you came to this event and are really anti-clean energy, go for it. It'll cost you more money. But if you really want to do that, go for it. You can also go in and up your level to get, I think it's 50% or 100% clean energy. And those cost a little bit more per kilowatt hour. But that's another great way to go through National Grid and to put your money where your mouth is and to drive more development of more solar and wind facilities, not just locally, but nationally. Does that answer your question? Yeah, the community solar flyer I mentioned and is in the back, and you can learn more about that.
Option two, so you can do both stay enrolled in what Hamilton is offering, but in addition to that, you can
Yeah.
still join with the community solar.
The community solar can be layered on top of your National Grid existing offering. I'm happy to answer people's questions at the end too if they have more. No, no. I mean, go for it.
It wasn't actually a question, but I would just like to share something. When I saw my kilowatt per hour bill go from the 16 during the summer to 33 during the winter, it's like 6 months at 16, 6 months at 33. I signed on with Direct Energy, which gets its energy out of Iowa, and it's 100% clean energy, and it fixes the rate for me at just a little over 16. So for whatever time period you want, I just chose 18 months. But you can do it independently because I live in Wynnum. Wynnum doesn't have this issue of community aggregation and doesn't seem to be getting it anytime soon. I keep asking. So you can do it as an independent.
Bottleneck. There's lots of towns that are trying to get into the community choice aggregation program, and it's a bottleneck. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Sharon.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to the Hamilton Wenham League of Women Voters for inviting me tonight, and thanks to all of you for turning out. So I appreciate the opportunity. The title of my talk is Advancing Product Stewardship in Massachusetts. Just want to have a show of hands. How many of you know what I'm talking about when I say product stewardship or extended producer responsibility? 2 or 3 of you, is that right? Okay, great. Then I can probably say anything now. So I'm here, I'm a member of the Mass Product Stewardship Council. And the Mass Product Stewardship Council is a formal committee of Mass Recycle. And Mass Recycle is the only 501c3 organization in Massachusetts that is dedicated to sustainable materials management. And the goal of Mass PSC is to shift costs away from taxpayers and municipalities towards the producers of difficult to manage materials. So I want to just back up and kind of paint the landscape for Massachusetts. In Massachusetts right now, we have a waste disposal capacity crisis. We don't have enough in-state places to bring our trash. About 40% of what we generate in state is exported as far away as Alabama. And there's no new capacity expected. Politically unpopular. Greg mentioned the incinerator in Saugus. There are 5 municipal waste combustors in Massachusetts. 3 of them are located in Essex County. The Saugus facility is the oldest in the country. So what's happening? Municipal costs, or all disposal costs in Massachusetts, are skyrocketing. So we need more waste diversion, right? That would be one solution, right? And we need to reduce our waste, that's another one. And we need sustainable funding because what we have right now is not sustainable. But here's the other dilemma. We have a recycling crisis. Today when I was working on this, I'm calling it the 3 C's. We have confusion, There's a lot of confusion. People don't know what is and isn't recyclable. As a result, we have a contamination problem because most of us think, okay, I'm going to put that black takeout container, black plastic takeout container in my recycling, and I'm going to hope it gets recycled. Well, the bad news, folks, is it doesn't. Maybe you didn't know that. My husband still doesn't know it. And the problem is, it's just speaking directly about black plastic, the reason it's not recyclable at our recycling facilities is that these facilities are really run, they have optic sorters throughout the chain or the belts that go through the facility, and they don't read black. So it could be that next year we have, improvements at our facilities and you can take black. It's always changing, but it's confusing. It's led to contamination, which has resulted in what? Higher costs to recycle our stuff. In fact, for the first time, it costs more to recycle our stuff than to throw it away, which is really not a good situation. So what's the solution? So I'm here to tell you it's product stewardship. And I'm also here to tell you that the current system is broken, right? When I first started doing this, it was a tin can, it was a glass jar, a glass bottle, it was a newspaper, it was a cardboard box. It was simple, right? It was one material that was recyclable. We are, our municipalities are at the receiving end of our unwanted stuff conveyor belt. They are tasked with managing and paying for an increasingly more challenging waste stream. Oh, I'm sorry, so I made a mistake. So my three C's, I didn't talk about confidence. So many of you have read reports about recycling plastic recycling in particular, right? And all of these reports, because they're all coming from the same study for the most part, say that only 5% of our plastics are getting recycled. That's pretty depressing. So it's true, and then it's not true. So it's true that only 5% of all our plastics are getting recycled, and that's the universe of plastics. So the denominator that was used was all plastic. So it includes your toothbrush, let's say, or a vacuum cleaner, which hopefully none of you are putting out in your recycling bins. When you use the denominator of those plastic containers that are recyclable, it's still really not great news, but it's more like 30%. So, but this has really hurt people's confidence. I have dear friends writing me, telling me, I don't believe my recycling is getting recycled. And I said, oh gosh, don't stop recycling. But we'll talk about this a little bit more. We need to be recycling the correct things. And back several years ago, when we were shipping a lot of our recyclables overseas, they were very forgiving. And so we were forgiving at the curb, right? So if you put it out, it had some place to go, but as we all found out, it was really not going anyplace good. And so that correction that happened in 2018, when China said, we're not taking your trash anymore, it was a tough pill to swallow, but it was a great pill because we are now managing our waste, in particular our recycling. More of it's being managed domestically, and that is good news. Okay, so let me get back on course here. Okay, so Greg has talked eloquently about climate change and the big contributors. I also want to mention that it is not broadly mentioned that 45% of our global greenhouse gas emissions can be attributed to our stuff. So this take, make, waste, linear economy that we work on, right? And so what we need to do. It's dependent on fossil fuels, and it does not manage our resources for the future. So what we need is we need to move from this linear economy. So if you could just picture your DPW director standing at the end, they're looking at this. Okay, where does it go? How do I manage it? How do I pay for it? Can it be recycled? It's bass-ackwards, pardon my friend's French. We need to shift the costs upstream to the producers and invest them in the process so that they are involved in a cradle-to-cradle production. And so a circular economy is indispensable in reducing emissions by transforming the way we design, produce, and use goods. Product stewardship and extended producer responsibility is it's crucial to getting to that circular economy. So I don't know if it was Susan or Christina that mentioned that I'm going to be talking about 3 bills tonight. The Product Stewardship Council, there are several product stewardship bills. We are hyper-focused on 3. One is for paint, one is for mattresses, and one is for packaging and printed paper. The paint and mattresses product stewardship bills are a lot simpler than the packaging bill, which I'll go into depth, but there are handouts there or QR codes for more information. And I love this cover from the New Yorker from 2022, where it shows the sofa being delivered and then the trash truck picking up the box to bring it to dispose of it. So product stewardship, as I said, it's really shifting the costs to where it belongs, to the producer. But the models for the paint and product stewardship bills, they are based on a advanced eco fee. So when you go and buy a can of paint, you would pay up to $1 for up to a 2-gallon can of paint. And that fee will go to what's called a producer responsibility organization, a PRO, who is then going to coordinate the free collection and recycling of all the latex paint that is collected, whether it's been in your basement for 20 years or whether you purchased it in New Hampshire, and manage all your oil-based paint as well. This will be to most of the communities that I worked with. I worked with 39. I ran a regional hazardous waste collection contract for 20 years. The biggest item that's coming into these hazardous waste collections is paint. And most of the paint that is being sold today is latex paint, and it is not considered hazardous. But I would still worry about, you're supposed to dry it out, solidify it, and put in the trash. So the paint bill would cover all of the architectural paints, latex, and oil-based. And I'm the lead on the paint bill, and I will say to you, this bill has passed in 11 states. It has passed in every one of our neighboring states except New Hampshire. And I don't know about you, I like New Hampshire, but this is not a metric that I want to be associated with New Hampshire on. So it's got great support. It's supported by the American Coatings Association. It has broad-based support. There are Republican and Democratic bills. It's supported by the Mass Municipal Association and municipalities and small retailers. All right, I'm trying to bring back my presentation. Mattresses is set up basically the same way, so I'm just going to go off script. So that's.
We've got a question, Sharon.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do it in the microphone.
Thanks, Sharon. Sharon, Bob Knowles, geez.
What? I'm sorry.
201 Main Street in Wenham, and a member of the Hamilton Wenham Climate Action Team. Quick question, with that particular bill on paint, you mentioned there's 11 states. So as far as the infrastructure to pick up, all right, so we're all paying into this thing $1 or $2. I would do that. I'd pay extra to create an infrastructure that collects paint. Are those 11 states doing it successfully?
Successfully.
They have a infrastructure that...
Successfully implemented. So New York was the latest to implement. They implemented in May of 2022. About a month ago, they just marked 1 million gallons collected. The infrastructure's all there. This is so easy. And so I want to talk about the packaging bill because it's really important, but it's going to be a lot harder to pass. It's going to take more, and we need a product stewardship win. Massachusetts has maybe one product stewardship bill, again, matched with New Hampshire, who has one, is both Mercury bills. Maine and Vermont have 9 product stewardship bills. New York, Connecticut, and Rhode Island have 6. They all have paint. Connecticut and Rhode Island have mattresses, and for most of you, you probably know that the state of Massachusetts banned mattresses in November of 2022, and our residents are paying as much as $70 to recycle a mattress. Where in Connecticut and Rhode Island, it's more like 12 to 15. So this would be an immediate benefit to municipalities, taxpayers, all of us. And these things would be, so mattresses are highly recyclable. As I said, latex paint is extremely recyclable. Oil-based paint would need to be, it would be managed in the most environmentally, highest environmental standard, but it would be managed, right? And the way the paint is set up, as I said, you've got this prepay and eco fee. If Hamilton Wenham continues to have its annual hazardous waste event, all their paint collected would be taken away for free. But retailers can also accept the paint, and many of them do. So in New York, there are 300 paint retailers that accept paint back. So it's, as far as paint concerned, it's a no-brainer. And this is when I go and talk to legislators, I said, just get this one over the finish line. It's small. This is about a 7th or 8th legislative session that it has been filed. So it really needs a larger bill, a larger popular bill to quarterback with. And so now I want to switch to the paint bill, Senate Bill, I think it's 471, which the League of Women Voters supports this particular bill. This bill is a lot more complicated because it is going to charge all the producers all the upstream costs. So if they're selling a product that has X number percent of sales in Massachusetts, they're going to be covered by this bill. It's packaging and printed paper. And when you look at packaging, and you look at the packaging you get that might be a small item, and you've got this big package, I mean, it's just total disconnect. So what product stewardship really does is it's going to invest the producers, and we're going to require it, that they produce products that are hopefully contain or don't contain hazardous constituents, that are refillable, reusable, recyclable, compostable, not necessarily in that order, that has to be inherent in the product. But they have to see it from production to,
Just about 2 minutes.
okay, to all the way around. They are responsible for end of life. So lots of information about all 3 bills. Massachusetts is way behind. We were asked to say, come up with things that you can do. I will say that Representative Kastner and Senator Tarr have supported the paint bills, and Representative Kastner has supported a packaging bill, not this particular one, but that's great. So either as individuals or as climate action or as a municipality, if you can write to your legislators or meet with your legislators and tell them that product stewardship is important to you, that would be first on my list. Greg touched on compost. Hamilton, Wenham, Manchester residents all have free weekly access to curbside compost collection. And I have a pie chart up there. Massachusetts does waste audits every 3 years at the five incinerators, and 32% of what we're throwing away is compostable. That's significant. And eating less meat, all those things really good. And then I also want to talk about recycling correctly. Mass DEP has produced a really great campaign called recyclesmartma.org. Information's on the table. And then shop, buy local. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So could you briefly touch on the glass and metal recycling? Is that also a shit show?
No, glass regrettably is. Sorry, I keep moving around. We do not have a local market for glass. Communities on the South Shore have greater access, but at the same time that China closed its borders to receiving our recyclables, we had a glass recycling facility in, I want to say it was Milford, that shut down. And that really hurt all of New Hampshire. So unfortunately, most of the glass, unless you are a community that separates it, which is really hard to do if you are a curbside community, is going for landfill cover. So not the greatest. Metal, definitely. Aluminum, skyrocketing prices. Plastics, if it's the right stuff, it's good. All that stuff is good, so don't stop. We also have waste bans in the state, so you're really actually prohibited from putting these things in the trash. So municipalities have to collect these things, even at a great cost.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chrissy, I'll just quickly ask a question. Years ago, I'm talking maybe 3 decades, we received wedding gifts for, glass items from Crate and Barrel. And they were packed in the little peanuts that are cornstarch.
Oh.
So we just threw them on our lawn and hosed them down. It was just, great fun. But it made me feel better. I mean, where are those cornstarch peanuts today? And why aren't we utilizing them more? I'm still seeing a lot of styrofoam.
Yeah. And so it worked on your lawn, huh?
Well, I did, yes.
I am seeing some improved packaging when I get things. I hope others are too, but yeah, there is still a lot of styrofoam. Styrofoam is a very difficult to manage material. It is recyclable, but at great cost. And I don't know if Hamilton Wenham was doing a collection. I worked at it 1 year, and I do collect any styrofoam I get. I bring to Newburyport because I happen to be working with the city of Newburyport, and they collect it. But it's annoying, and I think we need to use our voices. We need to speak loud, and when we're talking to, if we're vendors that we use, speak loudly that you don't want this stuff. I don't want the cornstarch either, quite frankly, but it's a lot better, right? But you're right, I haven't seen it either.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
It could be-
Just a quick one. Oh, do you have it? Oh, thanks. Okay. A great friend of mine is Eric Hudson, who runs Preserve out of Waltham.
Yep.
And he's one of my best friends. He started doing this 25 years ago.
Right.
And he's done a great job, as you probably know, extending his product line. And he's working on some pretty innovative plant-based materials that will literally be marine compostable and backyard compostable. So this is more of a comment than a question. These companies need to start innovating more, and they need to start using more plant-based materials, because they're not, yes, like any other market, they're going to be expensive out of the gate, but if we can force them to do that too, they need to innovate more.
I agree. I agree. And thanks for bringing up Preserve, because they do make a recyclable toothbrush, but not in your curbside bin. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
Not a question, but I think I've just noticed that Market Basket is now, instead of using styrofoam trays, they've got plastic trays for fruits and vegetables and meats. And I assume that those are not recyclable. I don't know what, I didn't look at the number.
Yeah.
But at least it's not styrofoam.
Right, and don't look at numbers. There's one thing, everybody please take one of these with you, because I think the focus is on shape. Because the numbers are just confusing. They really refer to resin type, they don't refer to it being recyclable, and that's one of the real roots of confusion. You better educate. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. My name is Neil Shea. I'm a field supervisor with Clear Result, which is the lead vendor for the Mass Save Residential Energy Efficiency Program. I've been working with Mass Save since 2011. And I can say in the time since then that we never really run out of finding really inefficient homes in Massachusetts. I'm also a member of the Hamilton Wenham Climate Action Team and a local resident here in Wenham. And I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the Mass Save program. I'll explain a little bit about what the program is, what the main focus is, how to sign up, and what to expect at a home energy assessment. I'm also happy to answer any questions that you have about the program, and feel free to stop me and raise your hand. There's also a sign-up sheet that Heather has on the back table there if you'd like to sign up for a home energy assessment. So Mass Save is a program that is sponsored by the gas and electric utilities here in Massachusetts, partnered with energy efficiency service providers like my company, Clear Result. And the goal is to help Massachusetts residents manage their energy use and become more energy efficient. The program, as Greg mentioned, is funded by ratepayers who are paying their electric bill. So everyone here is paying for the program already, which should give you some motivation to take advantage of it. It has made a huge impact overall in the housing stock all around Massachusetts. Every year, we reduce the CO2 emissions in Massachusetts by about 700,000 tons, which is the equivalent of taking 160,000 cars off the road every year. We also weatherize about 48,000 homes per year and install about 16,000 heat pumps in homes every year. In addition to the environmental impacts, there's a lot of other benefits to taking advantage of these energy efficiency incentives. It helps make your home have a higher air quality. It prevents issues like mold and things like that. It makes your home more comfortable and helps you save money on your energy bills. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about how the process works. The first thing you need to do is call and schedule an energy assessment, which you can do today if you put your name down on the sign-up sheet out back. And that gets you scheduled to have a residential energy specialist come out to your house. They'll then provide you with some recommendations, and then you can choose what of those recommendations you would like to move forward with. There's no pressure to do anything, but they just provide you with the information, and you can decide on your own if you'd like to move forward. You'll have an energy specialist come to your home. They'll walk through the house, usually starting in the basement, the main living space, and take a look at your attic. They're going to identify opportunities for energy savings in your home that will help you save money and energy in all the key areas of the house and make the home more comfortable. You'll receive a customized report tailored to your house. You could potentially receive some free products or no-cost products at the time of the assessment, including low-flow shower heads, which help you save water, but they also help save fuel because you're heating the water. Programmable thermostats, which allow you to program your heat so it goes down when you're not using it automatically, and as well as smart power strips that help you save energy on devices like computers and televisions. The big thing that they do is they assess for air sealing and weatherization opportunities. And this is usually the biggest low-hanging fruit because, like I mentioned before, a lot of the houses in Massachusetts are dramatically under-insulated. So they will look for opportunities and make recommendations on insulation. The typical things we would see is basement insulation around the perimeter. There's a lot of houses that have no insulation in their walls, so we can come and insulate your walls for you. And then also insulation in the attic. There's another service that we offer at completely no cost, which is called air sealing. So they pick up the existing insulation in your attic and seal little gaps and penetrations where you're getting draftiness. And what that does is it stops air from leaving the house, and that same amount of air gets pulled into the house somewhere down below, such as in the basement or windows. And so not only does it help you stop losing heat and air, but it helps prevent those drafts that you're feeling in other areas of the house. Another thing we do is we assess for health and safety hazards. So old wiring is a big thing that we need to watch out for if you're blowing insulation on top of it. Asbestos, mold, and combustion safety issues. So we want to make sure we're not over-tightening your home if there's any kind of issues with backdrafting furnaces or things of that nature. So the energy specialist will be able to identify any outstanding issues like that. And if there are issues, we have a lot of different incentives to help you fix them so you can then insulate. So in that sense, getting the energy assessment also can help you make your home more safe. Now, a big thing that Greg was talking about was heat pumps. One of the biggest pushes right now in terms of making everything more sustainable is electrification. And a huge part of that is installing heat pumps in your home. So that would be central heat pump where you have a ducted system or wall-mounted mini splits. But these are all electric, which still in some cases uses some fossil fuel, but if you are taking advantage of a solar program, then you're really creating a carbon neutral situation where you have electric heat and all of your electric is coming from renewables. We have huge incentives on switching to heat pumps. So you can receive up to $10,000 if you switch to a whole house heat pump. And for some people who don't want to do the whole house, there's also different options where you can do partial. So you can put in a couple of the mini splits, which are the wall-mounted units. And there's also a lower rebate for that, but it's still pretty substantial. There's also $15,000 that you can receive for installing geothermal heat pumps, which take heat out of the earth and use that to heat your house. Greg also mentioned several appliances that you can electrify that people commonly use gas for now, and most of which there are rebates which are available on the Mass Save website. There's a bunch of literature I left on the back table there, which contains info on the rebates, but leaf blowers, lawn mowers, washers and dryers, cooking appliances. There's big rebates for electrifying all of those things. I should also mention water heaters as well. Heat pump water heaters are a big new technology that a big added benefit of them is they dehumidify your basement as they're running. Question there? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Just while you're talking about drying up basements, I was thinking about our dehumidifier,
Yes.
and that is a cost thing, but we have an old house and a damp basement.
Right.
So suggestions there?
Well, there are rebates on dehumidifiers if the one you have is out of date. I would definitely recommend getting one with a timer because you can set it so it doesn't run 24 hours. So at least it kicks on for a couple hours, then kicks off, and that saves a lot of energy. Yeah. So, and then making sure you don't set it so you're super overly drying your basement. You want to have it. It depends on the house, but probably around like 55 to 65 would be a good setting in the summer. And then you don't really need them in the winter in most houses. It's always good to have something that you can use to read the humidity in the basement, so you know, even when you're not using it, what the humidity is like down there. But dehumidifiers are a big user of electricity, and there's a big difference in different products, so I would definitely recommend the Energy Star dehumidifiers. And as I mentioned, there are rebates on them if you were interested in looking at getting a new one. Yeah, yeah. So the other thing is that we have income incentives. So there's a lot of big incentives that the energy specialist will tell you about for heating equipment, insulation, electrification, appliances, et cetera. And then just so everyone knows, there is also additional income qualifying rebates out there as well, which are all available on the Mass Save website. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I actually kind of flew right through that, so I'm getting towards the end here. So that's a big overview of it, but I'm sure people have questions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have.
Thanks, Neil, thanks. Right, we're all paying into the program, right, on our National Grid electric bills. It just occurred to me, National Grid also owns the gas lines, so they make money in 6 months increments of the year. Using electricity, and we're using gas, so they got it coming and going. Has anyone ever talked about doing that same incentive on a gas bill? And why wouldn't they do that from a policy standpoint?
I don't know the reason. I would say most likely it's because everybody has electric, but not everybody has gas.
Okay, right.
So some people have oil heat, and the only way they can pay, you're not going to pay for the program when you're paying your oil provider.
Okay.
So that's probably why they tied it.
That makes sense. We're all paying electric.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
And to that point, there's certain towns around here that are actually not eligible for Mass Save because they have oil heat and they have the local municipal electric. So for example, Ipswich, if you had Ipswich Electric and then oil heat, you wouldn't be able to participate. But if you are a gas customer in Ipswich, you would. So, any other questions? Over there.
Can you talk a little bit more about the geothermal heat pumps? Because are people in this area putting those in? Is there any issues with, granite or, stone or?
Yeah, I would say depends on where you are. Gloucester, Rockport, there's a lot of ledge there. It's a lot more expensive to install, and the air source heat pumps are becoming a lot more efficient to a low exterior temperature. So even 5 years ago, they were much less efficient at a very low temperature. But now that there's cold climate heat pumps coming out, from a cost perspective, it generally makes more sense to do the air source heat pump. But it's not like I don't see it at all. There's definitely people installing geothermal. Greg seems to have an answer as well.
Can't help but jump in on this. Yeah. So there's actually a house up past the high school where Gradle Clark lives. There's the Honey sign in there. She's doing a geothermal system. And Beverly, I think it pencils out more easily when it's not just one house. So like the Beverly Police Department runs on geothermal. I know Arlington built a new high school, and that's run on geothermal. My understanding is it is more efficient, And over time, you'll get there, but the upfront cost ends up being higher.
Yeah.
But if you can, anywhere you can drill a well for water, you can drill basically 5 of the same thing and use it for geothermal.
So the way a heat pump works is it takes heat from one place and then it pushes it somewhere else. So a refrigerator is blowing heat out the back of the refrigerator. When you have a window air conditioner unit, it's blowing cold air in and hot air out. And in the winter, an air source heat pump is pulling heat out of the air outside, even though it's really cold out. Geothermal is below ground where it's always probably at least 50 degrees. So for that reason, it's going to be a lot more energy efficient. But the upfront costs can be prohibitive. And then a lot of people do it when they're doing new construction. Sometimes it's tough given the existing layout of your property. So, yeah.
There's a pilot program, sorry to jump in, I can't resist, but there's a pilot program that National Grid is doing, or Eversource, on like a district geothermal, where they're doing one installation and hooking up like all the houses and businesses all around it. And then the economics are really favorable. And so far, the results on that are really positive. So that may be the future of heating, especially for like district heating.
All right. Sounds like we're done. But yeah, so there is a sign-up sheet in the back if anybody would like to sign up for an assessment.
Yes, so thank you, Neil, Sharon, and Greg. We are going to be kicked out in 15 minutes, so please stop by the tables. They've got a lot of great, helpful information. They're going to stick around for a little while, so if you have additional questions, and a reminder to check our website for upcoming speaking events. And thank you very much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it, and thank you to Hamilton Wenham Cable TV for taping this for us, and we're looking forward to seeing it up on YouTube. So, thank you again.